The subject is blacksmithing, but we're not under the spreading chestnut tree. We're here in a blacksmith shop at Belmont Park. And when he's not underneath horses putting shoes on, John Taylor is here doing work. And John, your occupation is one of those situations that's still often family, father to son.
That's right, Frank. My father started in 1927, and then I started in 1955.
Are there any other members of your family been involved?
I had an uncle that shod horses here in 1919 for Johnny Madden, so it carries a long way.
How about the differences, John, in the times of your uncle in 1919 and you here in 1980? What are the differences in your trade, in your occupation?
Well, basically, everything's the same. We still make our shoes in the fire, special shoes that have to be made by hand, but you can also buy your steel shoes. But certain shoes have to be made by hand in the forge.
What would you say is the biggest change in the last 40 years?
Well, I would say the aluminum shoe, and they started in the late 30s, I suppose. And around the middle 40s, they started getting quite popular.
Of course, they come in boxes and they're pre-sized, and you do have to make some adjustments.
Well, that's right, but you don't have to use the fire anymore, so you just fit them cold, and that's where the difference is.
John, would you show us some of the shoes that you make here in the forge that are special shoes and that you have to work on yourself, that you have to actually make?
Right, well, this here happens to be a egg-shaped bar that has to be made by hand, and we also have what they call a three-quarter bar.
What would be I know that the bar shoe keeps the foot from expanding and contracting when it has a slit injury, but what is the difference between the egg and the three-quarter?
Well, the egg-shaped bar was made for a horse that had lost his frog, and because you wanted to cover an area past the heel of the shoe, you had to make an egg-shaped type. And of course, the three-quarter bar is also to take pressure off a quarter. This way here, the bar keeps the foot up off the ground somewhat and leaves the quarter away from the ground.
What other shoes might you make here in the blacksmith shop?
Well, we make block heels by hand. You can buy these, but a lot of people make them if they have the time.
These block heels are primarily used to prevent a horse from running down. Huh?
That's correct. Right.
They elevate the heel.
Right, the heel, and it also keeps them from sliding. Their hind legs from sliding up underneath them. Keep them from burning their heels.
What else do you keep yourself occupied in this hot fire doing?
Well, in the summertime, I try to stay out of the fire as much as possible, but here's a bar shoe with clips. Possibly a horse that might have broke a bone in his foot. Keep the foot from spreading when he puts his weight on it.
What else have we got here to see? There's a case of the old stickers that are actually turned. It doesn't happen much anymore, does it?
That's correct. Most people nowadays just take the stickers right out of the box and nail them on. But some of the old-timers do prefer to have the sticker turned.
That's just literally the end of the shoe
right.
By you turned up. Huh?
Right. Yeah, you just heat them in the fire a little bit so they don't break and bend them over.
What else do I see? Is that an elevated bar or with a...
Well, this bar shoe here was made for a hind foot with a block heel on the outside, and evidently the horse had lost a quarter, the inside quarter, and it also has clips to keep the foot from moving when the weight is applied to the ground.
John, when you have problem horses, and by that, as a trainer, what I mean a problem horse is a horse that does not travel safely, that interferes, that uses one leg to hit another instead of strictly go forward. How do you tackle these problems? By making special shoes, by adjusting, what do you do?
Well, you try to work with the foot if it's possible, if you have enough growth. If not, you'll have to use a leather wedge or a rubber wedge, or sometimes an insert cork you can use. It's not only lowering or raising one side of the foot, it's also making a horse break over quicker or extending his stride, one or the other. And it depends where a horse hits. That's where you make your decision.
John, what about the tools of your trade?
Well, Frank, years ago, horses that were shot on farms and what have you, they used heavy, bulky tools. So the blacksmiths on the racetrack started making their own tools, making them finer and lighter and easier to use. And these are some of them here. They're, like I say, they're light and they're easy to handle.
What is that?
These are the nippers. This is what you trim the wall away with. And here's a driving hammer that was made by hand. And the ones that you buy in a store are they're just too big and clumsy to use. And for a racehorse who has a fine foot, you have to have fine tools.
What is that?
These are what they call clinch tongs that we, after we drive the nail, we bend the nail over to clinch it into the foot. And this has all been handmade also.
In other words, with the delicate, light foot of the thoroughbred, you don't want to be hammering with a huge, heavy hammer.
No, the horse's foot couldn't take it, and then you'd also probably tear up a horse's foot, a racehorse anyhow.
Did you show us this?
No, I didn't. These are pull-offs. This is what you take the old shoe off with. And they come in quite handy.
That's just the way you grab the sides, or do you remove the nails?
No, well, sometimes on a real tender-footed horse, you remove the nails first, and these are quite sharp where you can get in the crease of the shoe itself and take each nail out at a time if you wish.
This week's winning question comes from Maxwell Russell of Stamford, Connecticut, and he wants to know if one-eyed horses are permitted to race at New York tracks. And the answer is yes, one-eyed horses can and do race at New York tracks. The rule states that a horse with one blind eye may race as long as the other eye is normal, but a horse who has partially impaired vision in both eyes will not be able to race. He must have one normal eye. And when he races, that partially impaired or blind eye must be covered with a closed cup. Now, this is the blinker that they would wear. A completely closed cup will protect the blind eye. And of course, when the horse races, he wears the blinker, and it is situated straight over his eye, just like that, and that protects the blind eye. Now, each horse, of course, is inspected for soundness, and their vision is inspected also by Dr. Manuel Gilman, and if he finds a horse with impaired vision or with the eye loss, you will see them race with this blinker. Now, there are three ways that a horse might lose their eye. One, they might be born that way. It's a congenital situation. They might have an injury to the eye, which causes the loss of the eye later, and also infection can also be the culprit and causing a horse to lose their eyes. Now, Maxwell wants to know if horses can compete successfully with one eye. Yes, they can, and they do. And over the years, we've had many good horses with only one eye. Back in the 60s, a horse called Funny Fellow, very successful horse from the PHIPPS stable. He won many stakes and went on to become a useful sire. There was a horse called One-Eyed King that Woody Stevens used to train, who won many stakes. His dam stepped on him when he was a foal, and that injury caused him to lose his eye, but it didn't stop his performance. He went on and did very well. A few years ago, there was a filly named Tuerta from the Claiborne stable, a good filly who had lost her eye. She was born without the eye, and she was a major stakes winner. There she comes along the rail in the Claiborne Yellow Silks, and this was one of her stakes wins. She was often timid, as often these horses are, a little bit timid. The riders sometimes are reluctant to go through along the rail if the horse has lost that rail eye, because they are a little bit shy about going to the inside when they can't see where they're going. Tuerta went on to be a good producer. She is the dam of the stakes horse Sight, who is competing right now in New York. Now, if you would like to think of some more good horses who have won major stakes, here's the Pruner, another horse from the Phipps stable. He lost the outside eye, and that, of course, is a little bit better situation. A horse can be better placed and make his move along the outside where they're not so reluctant to go inside of horses that they can't see. Now, the Pruner went on to be a good sire, so that shows you that his handicap did not handicap him, if you will. Right now, there is a very good horse competing in New York, a New York-bred Colt. He's a gelding. In fact, he raced just the other day in the Ashley T. Cole Stakes, where he finished third, and this is his winning race here in November, and he has never been off the board. His horse, he lost his eye due to infection, and it was removed surgically. But here he comes a winner nonetheless, and he's never been off the board in his life, so that shows you that he is coping very well with his shortcoming, which really isn't a shortcoming, because he's just as much a winner with one eye as many horses are with two eyes. Of your screen is RITO, and you know his name well. He's won 9 races, counting the Joe Palmer. He's the king of the New York breds, and here he carries 126 pounds under Larry Sawmill and gets up at the wire to outgame Kim's Chance. Quite a performance. On Sunday afternoon, we had 2-year-old fillies in the TREETOP Stakes, and that's Dom Mysterieuse on the lead, where she was all the way, a daughter of Bold Forbes. She comes by her speed naturally. Denny, your father didn't have nearly as much success with relaxing racing in England as he's had since he brought her back to this country. What do you feel made the difference?
Oh, I think what made the difference was that her legs got set while she was in England. She won 3 or 4 races over there, came over here a brand new filly, hadn't run that much, and grew up to what she has is a wonderful body, and turned out very well.
And of course, we're going to enjoy watching her run here a lot. We'd like to ask you, as chairman of the board of the New York Racing Association, some questions that I'm sure many of the viewers would like answered. First of all, the network coverage of the television races this fall was somewhat unsuccessful last year, and we wondered what kind of provisions and changes will be made for next year.
Well, next year we hope we don't have a one-horse field, of course, and that hasn't happened many, many years. But over and above that, we're going to put 2 major races, 2 major stakes on the in the Fall Championship Series, so that the Woodward, the Marlboro, and the Jockey Club Gold Cup will have another race with it on the telecast.
And insurance for the networks themselves.
That's right.
We've been reading a lot in newspapers and trade magazines lately about the future of simulcasting in racing, and wondered what the feeling is here.
Well, as far as we're concerned, simulcasting is a thing of the future, and it should have already happened. What we really want to see is a joint venture with all the OTBs in New York and ourselves, where we can expand this sport of racing to all people.
And the last question I'd like to ask you, I know everyone wants an answer to. We're curious about the future of your 14% takeout.
Well, the 14% takeout, as you know, was a huge success in New York. It stopped under legislation last May. It shouldn't have stopped. We're fighting very hard for its a new law to put it back in effect, and I hope it will. It should.
Well, I'm sure all the people out there would like to see it come back, and we thank you very much for being with us.
They're off. For take. Between horses goes for the lead. On the outside, Halyud is second. Bert's Bob in third. There goes Shawnee Bear with a rush. And Halyud has the lead now by a neck. Shawnee Bear in second by 2 lengths. For take back into third. Bert's Bob on the rail fourth. Fool's Prayer on the outside in fifth. Knight's Turn in sixth. Dallasite seventh. The filly Relaxing is in eighth on the inside. Picturesque on the outside gains a bit in ninth. And Lone Secretariat is 10th. The first quarter run in 25-1, around the far turn the first time. Shawnee Bear has the lead now by a neck, and For Take is moving up very quickly on the outside. Along the inside, it's Halyud. Those 3 enter the stretch together for the first time, and Shawnee Bear has the lead by only a head. For Take on the outside, second by a neck. Halyud is third by 6. Then Fool's Prayer is followed by Knight's Turn, Bert's Bob, Dallasite, Relaxing, Picturesque, and Lone Secretariat. They pass the stands now the first time. The half run in 49-4. For Take on the inside, Shawnee Bear. Now those 2 remain heads apart. 2 back, it's Halyud on the outside in third. Fool's Prayer gains a bit on the rail in fourth. Then 4 back. Relaxing in fifth on the rail. Then Knight's Turn, Dallasite, Picturesque, followed by Bert's Bob, and the distant 10th is Lone Secretariat. Round the clubhouse turn, approaching the backstretch the final time. Shawnee Bear on the rail has the lead by a neck. For Take on the outside, second by a length and a half. Fool's Prayer is third by a neck. Halyud on the outside in fourth by 2. Then Relaxing, followed by Knight's Turn and Dallasite on the backstretch. Fool's Prayer now takes the lead by a head. For Take is second as Shawnee Bear has dropped back into third. Halyud on the outside gains now into third, and Shawnee Bear is fourth. Then Relaxing, Knight's Turn, and Dallasite. They continue down the backstretch and approach the far turn the final time. Fool's Prayer has the lead by a half. Fortake on the rail on the outside. Halyard. Halyard now takes second. Delicite gains into third. Delicite now moves into second. Halyard is third. Then the filly Relaxing gains on the rail around the far turn. Fool's Prayer leads by 3. Relaxing is now second, making her move. They're at the top of the stretch. Fool's Prayer has the lead by a length. Relaxing on the outside now joins Fool's Prayer. Relaxing on the outside takes the lead by only a head. Fool's Prayer is second by 6. Then Delicite is third. Halyard in fourth, and Knight's Turn is fifth. At the 16th pole, that's the filly Relaxing in front.
What is a hot walker? Well, the name describes the job. When a thoroughbred exercise, he has to be gradually cooled out and given water, at least 30 minutes. And that job is done by a person who leads him and is called a hot walker. Out west and in the south now, a mechanical contrivance is replacing human labor. This does the job and can cool out 4 or 6 horses at one time. And it's very possible, when it can be covered, that this contrivance will make its way here to the east. In 1917 in Kentucky, there was foaled the most famous racehorse of this century, and in many people's eye, the greatest. His name was Man of War. He was bred by August Belmont, the man for whom Belmont Park is named, but Mr. Belmont was engaged in overseas war work, and he sold this marvelous young horse at the Saratoga yearling sales in 1918 for $5,000. What a bargain he was. He was affectionately known already as Big Red. There have been chewing gums and baseball players named that, but he was the original Big Red, and he was big and difficult to break. But oh, what a tremendous lot of talent he had. Louis Fustel trained him, and he was such a glutton, was this young horse, that Louis used to put a rock in his feed tub to see if he could slow him down or even feed him with the bridle. But it didn't slow down his eating, and it did not slow down his running. He was only defeated once in his entire career of 21 races, and that was in the summer of his 2-year-old year at Saratoga in the Sanford Stakes. And the chart says that without starting gates, he got a very poor start after being handled by an inexperienced substitute starter. He then got into a pocket along the rail, pulled up, circled the field, and only got beat a half a length. Now, many of the old-timers tell me that his greatest race was right here at Aqueduct in the Dwyer Stakes against John P. Greer. They ran head-and-head, 1/8 of a mile after 1/8 of a mile. They broke the track record for 3/4 while going 1 1/8 miles, and Man of War finally surged ahead at the end, broke a world's record for 1 1/8 miles, and won by 1.5 lengths. He was a neat racehorse and widely worshipped by all the fans that was beginning that great period of the 20s, and his final race was in Canada. It was a match race against the previous year's winner of the Kentucky Derby, Sir Barton, and we were able to obtain from the Saratoga Museum some old footage of that race in Canada, and it had the actual race call on it. Let's see it and hear it.
They're off and running. Man of War takes the lead over Sir Barton. As they come around the first turn, it's Man of War leading Sir Barton by a length. Turning into the backstretch, it's Man of War by 2 lengths and going away. As they come around the far turn and into the stretch, it's Man of War leading Sir Barton by 15 lengths and under a strong hold. And Man of War is an easy winner.
And even as the easy winner you saw, he took 6 2/5 seconds off the track record. What an incredible horse. He was retired to stud, after this particular race and joined his famous groom, Will Harbert, who spent all the rest of his life with him. He stayed in Kentucky, and 50,000 people a year came to visit him. I was one of them in 1936 as just a laddie buck, and I've never forgotten the proud groom when he came out, showed his horse, and said, "This is the mostest horse that ever am or ever will be." And then he proudly lead him back into his stall, and I'll die and remember that very well. He was a successful sire, War Admiral, his most famous son. Today, Never Say Die, Sir Ivor, Buck Passer, and Arts and Letters are all descendants of this great horse. In 1947, he died. He had 5 attacks of colic, which of course was part of the gluttony problem I told you about all his life. The groom died within 30 days of him, Will Harbert, both of them buried in Kentucky, and thousands of people, which is unique even in the horse world today, thousands of people attended the burial ceremony of this marvelous horse. The likes of Man of War we may never see, but certainly none better has graced the surface of our racetracks. This was and is the leading money-winning woman's rider in the world, and things were going beautifully for her. On the 23rd of June last, she was riding in a race at Monmouth Park, and a fall that has now been shown many times that must be both an unpleasantness, but a memory for her. And Karen, here we are.
Right. I was on a horse called Bow Breeze. I'm on the outside there, going around the turn. Right now, my horse clipped seals, and you can see me shooting up over his head and fall down onto the track. The horse behind me missed me. It looks like he ran over me, but he didn't step on me. A horse will try and jump a fallen rider.
And the injuries you had were broken vertebrae, huh?
Right. I broke 3 vertebrae in my back. It's called a compression fracture. So.
What about the rehabilitation you've been through?
Well, I had to do a lot of work ever since I came out of the hospital about 9 days after the spill. I was in a body cast, and I started doing therapy right away. I did about 3 hours of therapy every day for my back. I did it floor exercises with weights on my back and my legs, arching, and the idea was to build up the muscles around the break so I would hold the fracture in place so it wouldn't, get worse. And I continued with the therapy right up until I started riding. In addition, I started some swimming and bicycle riding and just a lot of hard work.
Well, it looks like the hard work paid off because Wednesday you started riding, and you could barely see you on the horse for all the cameras here that were covering you, but you rode a marvelous race. It was a tough thing to do, a 1 1/8 race for your first start, and here you are in a finish of 3rd.
Yeah, I'm number 7 on the outside there. I just got up to finish 3rd. And Peter Howe put me on the horse. It was real nice of the people that rode me, yourself and Mr. Howe and Bobby Lake. They all gave me a shot on the comeback trail, and I had a 2nd, a 3rd, and a 4th that day. And I was dead fit because all the exercise I was doing was swimming 50 laps a day and jumping rope and bicycling. I did a lot of work.
Well, you looked fit. And Karen, you were out this morning working horses in that cold. With all that kind of work, do you get any chance for social life?
Well, not too much, really. I put my work first and social life second when I get a, free moment, but it usually isn't very often. I had 6 months when I had a broken back that I could have gotten all that stuff done.
Karen, one question that's always asked of a woman rider. Do you feel any macho oppression or any bullying by the male riders?
No, not by the riders at all, no. They all treat me pretty equally, and we're all kind of equals out there on the racetrack, and most of it's 90% is the horse underneath you, and the idea is to try and win and to ride safely, and I think everybody out there gives me a pretty equal shot.
Well, that's about all you need. You've got a lot of talent. Good luck, young lady.
Thank you.
Wind Change, Mount Denali with starting flag. On the outside, Poor Dad, A La Breva, and Royal Hierarchy. They're all vying for the early lead as they pass the stands now the first time. Mount Denali on the rail has the lead by a neck. Starting flag on the outside is second by a length. Then Poor Dad in third, A La Breva fourth. Royal Hierarchy is fifth. On the inside, Bar Dexter moving up in sixth. Then Wind Change, huge success. And Hurry Up Blue. Entering the clubhouse turn now, the first quarter, and 24-1. Mount Denali on the inside has the lead by a neck. Starting flag on the outside, second by 2. Poor Dad is third by a length. Bar Dexter in fourth by a length. A La Breva in fifth. Hurry Up Blue gains on the rail in sixth. Then Royal Hierarchy, Wind Change, huge success. Down the back stretch, the half in 48-4. Poor Dad on the outside now attains the lead by a head. Starting flag is second. Mount Denali has dropped back into third by a half length. Bar Dexter on the outside gaining gradually in fourth. Then Hurry Up Blue, Royal Hierarchy, A La Breva all heads apart. Two back to Wind Change and huge success. They're approaching the far turn now. On the inside, Mount Denali once again comes on with starting flag and Poor Dad. Those three across the track. Bar Dexter in fourth, then A La Breva and Royal Hierarchy approaching the top of the stretch. Three quarters, 113-2. Mount Denali on the rail, starting flag on the outside, those two heads apart. Poor Dad joins the leaders. Bar Dexter on the far outside. Mount Denali on the rail. Bar Dexter now takes over by a length. Mount Denali is second. Then starting flag, A La Breva gains between horses. They approach the 16th pole now. That is Bar Dexter leading by 3, and A La Breva is second. Bar Dexter in front.
Eclipse Award winners are racing's champions, and on the basis of their past performances, these great horses are selected by the ballots of 3 major organizations in racing: the Daily Racing Form staff, the National Turf Riders Association, and the Thoroughbred Racing Associations represented by the racing secretaries. Their selections have been so accurate in past years that we look forward to them with excitement. And Chauncey, what about the winners?
Well, we'll start off with the best female turf horse, and that went to Just a Game, the very tiny filly who won 8 consecutive stakes, and she was undefeated in her division, usually running most of her races on the lead. The best male turf horse went to another very small front runner, the gelding John Henry. He won 8 stakes on the grass this year and often carried top weight, and he joined Millionaire's Row this season. The best steeplechase horse went to ZACCIO, and this award was selected by a special committee, unlike the other divisions, and ZACCIO won the New York Turf Riders right here in New York. To continue with our coverage of Eclipse Awards champions, the winner in the Best Older Filly and Mare division went to Glorious Song, who was also voted Horse of the Year in her home base, Canada. We see her here winning the Top Flight Handicap in New York, defeating Misty Galore and Blighty. Glorious Song came the closest to spectacular bid of any horse this season when she finished second to him, beaten but a length and a quarter in the Haskell at Monmouth. She traveled all over the country and earned over $500,000 in a very consistent year. The best 3-year-old filly champion went to, you guessed it, Genuine Risk. She was the first filly in 65 years and only the second filly ever to win the Kentucky Derby. And here we see her coming through the stretch at Churchill Downs, holding off a late charge by Rumbo. Genuine Risk, certainly a courageous and game filly, made only 8 starts this year, but won 4 of them, including being the only filly ever to compete in all 3 of the Triple Crown events. Slight injury forced her to the sidelines at the end of the year, but we expect to see her back next season. The best 3-year-old colt went to Temperance Hill. He was an unheard-of colt when he won the Belmont Stakes at 52-1, staging a major upset and defeating Genuine Risk. Temperance Hill was said to be many things this year, but one thing he was a good accountant.
He won 7 races and earned over $1 million. His victories included the Travers, the Jockey Club, and the Super Derby.
Well, for special accomplishments, the Eclipse Awards salute special people. 2 very deserving people this year. Jack Landry, the originator of the Marlboro Cup, the sponsor of it, the man who proved the practical marriageability of industry and racing. We salute him for that and the great Marlboro Cup. And Pierre Belloc, affectionately and professionally known as Peb, fine cartoonist, he too, with an award that he most richly deserves. Well, humans also win Eclipse Awards. 3 of the most active categories: apprentice rider, old rider, and trainer. And this year, in the apprentice category, there was a very fine young man, but 17 years old, the son of a jockey. Frank Lovato Jr. won nearly 300 races, 6 of them stake races, which is not de rigueur for an apprentice rider. Successful young man that looks like his future is still ahead of him. Always controversial is Bud Delp, but very talented. For several years now, his horses have won over $1 million, and this year, the trainer of the mighty Bid, and they used to call it the Bid and Bud Show. It was exciting wherever it went. Here in New York, not as well received, but great respect for his ability and for the great horse, Spectacular Bid. And leading all riders for the 3rd time in his short career, Chris McCarron was the leading old rider with over 400 winners, over $7 million in monies won. Tremendous year for Chris McCarron. And Chelsea, back to horses.
Our 2-year-old filly championship went to Heavenly Cause, and this was an unusual situation because her owners, the Rye Hill stable, was also the champion 2-year-old filly owners last year with Smart Angle. And here is Heavenly Cause winning the Frizette Stakes here in New York, and she came from well off the pace. She had been a filly who had not been quite as impressive earlier in the season, but once the races began to stretch out and go longer, she was most impressive and won the Frizette and the Salima for her championship. The 2-year-old colt division set up much the same way. Lord AVIE was not really quite as effective going in the sprint stakes earlier in the season, but when the races began to stretch out and thinking in terms of classic distances, he was most impressive here. He wins the Champagne Stakes in New York. And certainly he'll be a colt we will watch for come spring when we start talking about 1 1/8 miles and 1 1/4 miles. The sprint championship went to Plug Nickel, a 3-year-old colt, who of course was voted in over all the older horses, and he did defeat these older horses. Here he is winning the Vosburg Stakes. He had been somewhat ineffective going route of ground earlier in the year. He failed in the Kentucky Derby after many thought he would win it, but he was certainly effective going 7/8 of a mile, and for that he was voted champion sprinter.
You know, I'd sensed the way to pick a word to describe you, and not being rude, you're not, I mean, all owners are professional, but you're a full-time owner. Would that be a fair way to describe you? I've never known a man own horses and spend so much time at the trade.
Thank you very much for your compliment, Frank. I really enjoy it.
Do you think, Murray, I know that you've made money doing it, I've watched you. Do you think people can take an investment of X thousands of dollars and make money claiming horses?
A person who has $100,000 today can claim or buy 3 or 4 good horses and make a lot of money in New York today.
What is the secret to the, if you will, to the success you've had?
Claiming horses, trying to listen to what my trainer tells me to do, put them in the proper spots, and try to get the purses. The purses in New York are high enough where you don't have to finish one. You can finish 1, 2, 3, 4, still pay your bills, pay your expenses, and have some money left over for some other horses.
Murray, beside being an owner, when I use the word controversy, you have, I presume, in protecting your investment, involved in a lot of the controversy that goes with racing. You mentioned the purses. I know you were involved in Albany and all with the 17 versus 14%. How important is that to horsemen?
The 14% is very important to the horseman. It is also important to the public, because the 14% and the 17 is a 3% difference in the churning of the money at the track. The more money the people bet on the horses, the more money there is to the purses, and the more money is left for the people to get back before the day's races are over.
They talk about gambling casinos. They couldn't get anybody in there with topless dealers if they had 17% takeout.
All they take out over there, I understand, is 5%. If you bet with the house, they take out nothing.
So you think it's mandatory for those in racing to do that?
That's right.
Murray, you have any idea in your mind of changing your modus operandi, operandus? Are you thinking about breeding or doing anything different in the horse business?
No, I am not, because the breeding end of it is a different type of business. You must have your own breeding farm to control and see what goes on over there and know what you do with brood mares, with sires. That's a different business than what I'm doing right now. I like to buy a horse today, run him tomorrow, get whatever part of my investment back, and have a good time with them.
Well, you put a lot of work into doing it. What do you think, Murray, you compete against trainers, you claim from trainers, just because, leave me out, but who do you think are the 8 or 10 toughest trainers in New York?
I would say Pancho Martin, Jose Martin, Gil Puentes, Phil Johnson, Joe Travato. There are a number of them. Off the top of my head, Las Barrera, of course, and the Barrera brothers, all of them. They're all good trainers.
And do you, when you pick horses, do you pick trainers or just the horses?
I pick the horses, but certain trainers we stay away from because you can't play with them.
What do you mean by that?
I played with you one time, Frank, and I got hurt.
Well, one time, one swallow doesn't make a spring, Murray, necessarily.
But I'll come back again, Frank.
I know you will. Murray, what do you think? Have you got any recommendations that might help racing in this area?
I would like to see the take go back to 14%. They're talking about a 7-day week. I think 7-day week will kill the horses. They're talking now that with a 6-day racing, that we can't get the horse for the races to begin with. How can we go with 7 days? All we'll do is murder the horses.
I appreciate, Murray, you've always been candid with everybody. Controversy may be what you deal in, but at least you're honest and direct, and we thank you for coming here, and congratulations with Pete Moss.
Thank you very much, Frank. It's been a pleasure being on your show.
They're off. Dr. Blum, Judge Gray, and Petty Roche. Judge Gray has the early lead. On the outside now, Clever Trick is moving up alongside Dr. Blum. Petty Roche back into 4th, and Dunham's Gift is 5th down the back stretch. Judge Gray on the rail. Dr. Blum, Clever Trick on the outside. Dr. Blum now puts a neck in front. Clever Trick is on the outside alongside Judge Gray. Those two heads apart, 2nd and 3rd, then a length and a half back to Dunham's Gift and Petty Roche. They are tightly bunched entering the far turn. The first quarter run in 23 flat. Dr. Blum has a narrow lead of only a head. Judge Gray on the rail 2nd as Clever Trick has now dropped back into 3rd. Dunham's Gift on the outside gains in 4th. Then Petty Roche also moves up on the rail. They're approaching the top of the stretch. Dr. Blum on the outside has a clear lead now of a length and a half. Judge Gray on the rail, second by a neck. Petit Roche on the outside with Dunham's Gift. Clever Trick is back into fifth. Down the stretch, Dr. Blum has the lead by 2. Petit Roche on the rail is second by a half length from the outside. It's Dunham's Gift. Dr. Blum has the lead by 3. Then Dunham's Gift in second. Petit Roche is third. It's Dr. Blum in front.
All horses that are interesting didn't run a decade ago and win stakes or the Triple Crown a century ago. And Marshall Cassidy has a horse that's caught his eye and his interest, and he's going to tell us about him.
He runs fast. He runs true to form. By that simple definition, Kim's Chance eloquently displays the most valuable assets of any thoroughbred. He was foaled right here in New York State in 1975, and except for a humble beginning in this sport, he has picked up a piece of every purse he's competed for, all but one in 29 starts. He's owned by Roger E. Leslie, a Canadian trucking businessman, and trained by Steve Jerkins, an affable fellow, a very successful trainer here in New York, also the son of the giant killer, Alan Jerkins. Bred by Sam Lehrman, Kim's Chance was picked up for a very nominal sum, really, in this business, $9,000, and only as a mascot for another weanling in Mr. Leslie's barn. However, this mascot, Kim's Chance, has earned almost $1/3 His first stakes success was the Holly Hughes Handicap last year. He won that race by 6 lengths, and his plans now call for a return engagement this year. The Holly Hughes will be run February 12th. There you see Kim's Chance in the white and purple silks. He beat Miss South Shore and Newsman in that race, and the footnote to the chart calls the victory handily. His races are always dubbed either driving gamely or drew clear. This horse never puts in a bad race, and that's the reason I find most enjoyment in watching him compete. His trainer, Steve Jerkins, feels that there are at least 3 reasons for his remarkable consistency. First, he's honest. He never puts in a bad race. The second is class. He seems to have a bit more class than the other New York breds running around here. And thirdly is the timing of the races. He has 3, 4, maybe 5 weeks between each race, so that he'll be in top condition for the race he competes in. And, of course, this gives the opportunity for the trainer to show his expertise. Kim's Chance has never run at Saratoga. In 1979, he was taken by a virus. That knocked him out from May until September. And last year, it was actually a bad set of circumstances. He was pressed so hard in a handicap race at Belmont Park last July, he won by a nose over Newsman, that his recovery time was such that he could not make an appearance at Saratoga. He came back in September in the Hudson Handicap. He lost that race. He was third, beaten by Fiorito and Serac. He did carry high weight in the race. He raced 4 more times in 1980, winning twice, losing twice, second to Fiorito both times. The Bertram F. Bongard, he lost by a length and 3/4. The Joe Palmer, he lost by only a neck. And after the Joe Palmer, Kim's Chance's rider, Angel Cordero, said that Kim's Chance couldn't even see Fiorito on the outside closing fast, his view blocked by another horse. Don't get the idea that Kim's Chance is an all-around good guy because he has a mean streak. It's a matter of record, and that mean streak accounted for as being gelded long ago. His groom, Howard Sussy, has lost 5 shirts to the teeth of Bonehead. Bonehead, an affectionate appellation that he justly deserves. He has a very funny-looking face. Let's have one more look at this fine 5-year-old gelding, son of Triple Crown, who looks so much like his mother, Cert. This a handicap race last November. He beat Darlin' Mama and Tiempo to the wire. A very versatile gelding. Kim's Chance has won from 6 furlongs to a mile and a furlong. Has success in a fast track, muddy track, a sloppy track. Definitely a New York horse, having competed exclusively at Belmont Park and Aqueduct over the past 20 months. I think we're going to see him run on the turf course again this year. He has a very wide foot. Confirmation that horsemen believe is almost essential for turf success. And I think we'll see him run in open company, Frank.
Marshall, that's the final test. An interesting horse you've picked. Certainly the New York breds are attracting a lot of attention. Thank you.
Well, of course, all thoroughbreds become a year older on January 1st. That was just last Thursday, so all the 2-year-olds are now 3 and so forth. And that was simply an arbitrary decision made to simplify the categorizing of races according to age. Now, the thoroughbred has an 11-month gestation period, and they are all bred on a schedule so that 90% of the foals are born between the 1st of March and the 1st of June. So actually, all members of a single age group are fairly closely bunched in age, even though they're really officially a year old in January.
Angel, when you were a little boy, California had Willie Shoemaker, and we had all the rest of the riders. Now I look on the program, and they've got all the good riders out there this winter, and some of them staying for the year. What is the story?
Well, Frank, the weather is probably one of the principal for jockeys to want to be there. The weather is great, and the purses are great, and the attendance probably what helping to get the purses so big. They have big attendance there every day, and they probably have a lot of good horses around there too. And most of the riders, when they go there, they like to stay there and live there.
Angel, I always felt, I went to California, and everybody in our industry knows I didn't fare well and didn't like it, but I always felt that they ride rougher out there, that they're a little more lax, and that if you get in front, you're a little tougher on the people behind you. Is that true or not, honestly?
Well, I tell you, after you race in New York, any other place you go, you find that it's kind of difficult to ride. New York probably still the only track which you really have to be a straight line to maintain your winning position. In California, it's not that they ride rough, it's they ride close to each other more than any other track. And because the speed of the horses reach the first part of the race, they stay close to each other together all the time. And it's very hard to get through there, and it is tough to ride, not because the jockeys are tough, it's because it's a lot of good riders together, and the horses stay closer to each other. Most of the races, they are photo finish, 3, 4 horses, and that makes it exciting.
Angel, now the frank, honest question. In the future and in your preference, where would you rather be, California or New York?
Frank, I like California, and I like the people, and I like the horse. I like everything there, but I love New York track. I guess the only thing is hanging me in there is the tracks and my family life, New York. And I don't stay here all winter because I have a lot of injuries, and the weather is very bad for my back and all my injuries. But in the future, I guess I love cold weather myself. I like to ride in the cold weather. In the future, when everything is set up, I'll probably stay in New York and just settle down here and just fly from here anywhere else and stay here all year round because I really like New York. I should have stayed this year and tried to become leading rider, but I've been trying for 5 years and I keep missing, so I'm just going to take a nice, easy the first part and work hard the last part and see what happens.
We wish you luck. We're glad you're back here.
They're off. Highest Regard on the outside with the wheel turns. Farther out, No Joke along the inside, Soft Colors and Lean. Skip Out is back into 6th down the back stretch. No Joke on the outside now takes the lead by about a half length. Lean on the inside, Soft Colors in 3rd, then the wheel turns in 4th, and Highest Regard is 5th by a half. Skip Out in 6th on the rail, continuing down the back stretch. First quarter and 22 and 3. No Joke on the outside has the lead by about a length. Lean on the rail, second by a length and a half. Highest Regard is 3rd by a head. The wheel turns, now takes 3rd. Highest Regard back into 4th, then Soft Colors and Skip Out around the far turn. No Joke has the lead by a length and a half. Lean on the rail, second by a neck. On the outside, Highest Regard. The wheel turns. Skip Out now gains on the far outside. They're in the stretch. No Joke has the lead by 2. Lean on the rail, second by Unek. Soft Colors gains with Skip-At. Skip-At now takes second. Soft Colors in third. They're approaching the 8th pole. No Joke, Skip-At on the outside. Skip-At now takes the lead by Unek. No Joke in second by a half. Soft Colors is third, gaining on the inside. But to the wire now, that's Skip-At in front.
Such a thing as a horse who refuses to win? Well, the answer is yes. No human can make a horse win. He's got to be born with that will to win, but it seems some of them come with a will to be second. I know New Yorkers will remember a horse a few years ago called Jock who was 24 times second in his career. The pretender to that throne these days is Full Quid, a horse who's been racing here in New York. He has finished second 15 times. It seems Joseph has lost his money on Full Quid. Here he is, the horse in the blue silk, second along, leading on the rail right there. He has the lead right now, but as they come through the stretch, watch what happens. The challenger moves up on the outside, and Full Quid really offers no resistance. He lets the other horse go on by. All kinds of distances, surfaces, equipment, and riders have been tried on Full Quid. He simply wants to be second. He's been second 15 times. Our advice to the bettor, when you see a bridesmaid like that, bet him to place.
They're off. King Celebrity, Lark Oscillation. Lark Oscillation takes the early lead, and now moving up on the outside, Funny Cap and Stiff Sentence. Stiff Sentence on the outside takes the early lead now by about a half length. Funny Cap in second by 2.5. Lark Oscillation back into third on the rail, relaxing on the outside in fourth, and King Celebrity is fifth. They pass the stands now and enter the clubhouse turn. Stiff Sentence, Funny Cap heads apart. Funny Cap has the lead by about a half length now. Stiff Sentence in second by 4. Then Lark Oscillation is third by a length and a half. Relaxing in fourth by 2. Then King Celebrity remains in fifth. The first quarter run in 24 seconds, and they're on the back stretch. Funny Cap on the rail still leads, but on the outside, Stiff Sentence now gains gradually, and Stiff Sentence takes the lead by a half length. Funny Cap on the rail, relaxing on the outside, has now taken second. Relaxing has moved into second and moving up on Stiff Sentence. Funny Cap back into third, Lark Oscillation in fourth, and King Celebrity remains in fifth. Into the far turn, the half in 48 and 3. Stiff Sentence on the rail, relaxing on the outside. Those two now heads apart. The mare Relaxing now takes the lead by a half length. Stiff Sentence is second by 4. Lark Oscillation in third. Then Funny Cap and King Celebrity into the stretch. 3/4, 1:13 and 2. And Relaxing has an easy lead now by 5 lengths. Stiff Sentence is second by 4. Lark Oscillation in third. Then King Celebrity and Funny Cap. To the wire, that's Relaxing in front.